Hey guys, just wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening to SiDEBAR Forever. If you like the show, please subscribe to us at sidebarforever.com, as well as share episodes of the podcast on your social media. That way, new listeners can find us as well. Let the litigation begin. As OGs, Swain and I have been fans of Frank Miller ever since we were teenagers. We've spoken about him more than once on the previous iteration of the show, and to this day, we still hold a lot of reverence for his work. Recently, Swain ran across an article on ScreenRant.com listing Miller's 9 best comics, and he and I thought it would be fun to put together our own top 5. Arguments were made, evidence was presented to the court, and the jury came back with its verdict. I'm Agent Johnson, and this is the goddamn SiDEBAR Forever podcast. And today, we're debating Frank Miller's 5 best comics. So when you came up with the premise for this episode, man, us talking about Frank, I instantly thought about something on our previous incarnation that I kind of wanted to bring up. But before that, I do want to say this. And look, I know some people may jump down my throat. Don't blame Swain for this. Blame me. My name's Adrian Johnson. You know where to find me at. But Miller, to me, just for me, he hasn't really been relevant in like the last decade or so, And I can hear people right now like, ooh, say what? Because for me, it almost seemed like he's resting on his laurels a bit. I mean, he's done enough to where it's like, man, he kind of, like I'm fond to say of certain creators, he don't need to do nothing else. You've already done this, and this. You straight. If you want to keep pushing, that's cool. But to me, especially in the light of like all of these like Dark Knight sequels and threequels and it's becoming just to the point of like, for me, it's almost diminishing, not wholly, but it kind of takes a bit of the polish off of the originals, so forth, because it's like the original is a monolith, to me, and just those subsequent, sequels are just like, it's not needed, man. It's not needed, man.
Let me interject real quick. It's kind of similar to a once great and, creative and commercially successful artist.
Yeah.
Like a musician, where they put out, a great debut, and then then the sophomore follow-up is just as great. And you're like, wow, and then you see them kind of, do something else later in maybe an album or two later. And that one maybe is a departure from what they did before, not as commercially successful, but gets even greater critical acclaim and acclaim for being, creatively adventurous.
Yeah.
And so they have this 4 or 5 albums where you're like, wow, they just killed it from this year to that year. And then as they kind of get older and get further into the second and third waves of their career, they start putting out, worse albums, crappier albums, cover tune albums, collaborations with Shaggy, just all kinds of bullshit. And you get to the point where it's like, okay, after a while, the bullshit is going to outnumber the greatness at the beginning of the career. It's like, okay, you got 6 bad albums to counter your 4 excellent, great albums. And that's just like, this is a little, I don't, you don't want to see them fall from grace. And yet that's what they're destined to do. And I think to some extent, it doesn't hold completely true with artists or with comics or with other kinds of storytelling. But definitely with musicians, no musician, I won't say none, there are hardly any examples that you can find where after they were 40 years old, they created great commercially successful work. The only 2 examples I'll give you will be Carlos Santana with Supernatural.
Yeah.
And Tina Turner What the what's love got to do with it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But those are the two exceptions that actually prove the point that in that instance, it doesn't happen. Same thing with athletes. Athletes aren't great in their fucking 40s. It's over at 40.
Mm-hmm.
You can't play with 20-year-olds. They'll kill you. Just on endurance. Maybe they don't have the skills or the chops, but just on endurance, they'll kill you. So I kind of wonder, where, again, I keep bringing this up, where Miller was young. He had that eye of the tiger. He had taken all of the abuse from Neil Adams at Continuity Associates.
Yeah.
Dragging him on his draftsmanship and his figure drawing, making jokes about him to other artists in the studio, saying, look, he knows he can't draw, so he's focusing on storytelling, like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's partially that, the reason why you say, damn, yo, because I mean, go ahead. Anyway, finish your point. That was a long tangent that I interjected there. So
No, but it kind of made it come into focus, and I appreciate you for that, because that's exactly the point that I was getting to. It just seemed like within the last decade or so, Miller, to your point, and this kind of isn't true of cartoonists though, but in this instance, it kind of is. With cartoonists, the older they get, for the most part, as long as their motor skills hold up and things like that, and their mind is still sharp for the most part, they become craftspeople at the craft of cartooning. You know what I'm saying? Like, they actually get sharper, the more that they do it. And you can see that with Miller, obviously. I mean, he still has chops. I can't take that away from him. But in terms of like his storytelling and the choices of projects that he's choosing, it's just like, no. Like with the latest like Dark Knight sequels and stuff, he's teaming up with Brian Azzarello, a younger writer. And I'm like, why do you need another writer if you're the one that came up with this original premise? And he's done some other stuff too that I'm just like, oh, Frank, oh, come on, man. Come on, bruh. You know what I mean? Like Holy Terror.
yeah.
This sequel to 300, Xerxes. I'm like, oh, come on. Come on. And did you see that recently he also did illustrations for a prose novel, like for a young adult novel called Cursed. Yeah, he did like the interior illustrations. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that, but even with that, like his artwork kind of felt kind of out of place as just single illustrations. Are like, dang, you read like this young adult novel, you're like, oh man, so Timmy went to the prep school, and why is he wearing a trench coat? What the? Why is he in a shadow? What? I'm exaggerating.
Why does Timmy have a Band-Aid on his face?
But yeah, so I see what Miller is doing. He's definitely trying to reinvent himself, for sure, to a new paradigm. But I do feel like, the glories that he is known for, they are definitely behind him. And he's left a trail of greatness. I can't lie. He's like a Jordan. Yeah. He's like a Brady, where he got rings, yo. He got rings. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so with that, I want to go into a retraction before we get into the heart of this episode, man. Yeah, I got egg on my face. I'll say it. On our previous incarnation, we did a Frank Miller tribute. I believe it's about episode 289 or thereabouts. And on the conclusion of the episode, Swain posited a question to Dwight and myself asking, does Miller belong in the Hall of Fame, the comic book Hall of Fame? And I was all up in my feelings, and all this. And I said, no, he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. And I don't forgot why I even said that, but upon reflection and probably being disassociated from whatever I was feeling at that time about him, it's like, he absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame. Are you kidding me? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. He, if ever there was someone who was, deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. It's definitely him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he has reached a point for me where he gets a complete free pass, because I jumped off at DK2.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, I jumped off the Miller train at DK2. Yeah, I was like, next stop, please.
Ring that bell. Ding.
Yeah. At DK2, I was like, okay. And the Holy Terror was like a holy hot mess for me. I was just like,
yeah.
This is... And it doesn't really have much to do like with his politics or xenophobia or maybe not xenophobia, but just this kind of this kind of haughty militantism, that he kind of has, and I told you guys that story. I was at the New York Comic-Con.
Yes, but tell it again for the benefit. Yeah.
Okay, so I went to the New York Comic-Con and went to a panel that Bob Schreck had was doing. It was hosted by Chris, what's his name from
Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick from the Nerdist.
Yeah.
And it was Schreck.
Yeah.
And Schreck had just taken a job with Legendary Pictures to be the editor, I guess editor-in-chief of Legendary Comics.
Mm-hmm.
So he brought some all-stars out on stage with him that he was going to have work with him on some of his books, one of which was Matt Wagner, a terrific writer and artist himself.
Of course.
The other one was Mike Kaluta, a fantastic artist and someone for whom I remain a forever fan. Paul Pope and Frank Miller. Mm-hmm. And when Frank came out, we started talking and taking questions, or they started talking and we did questions and answers. And then they got to the subject of 9/11 and he just went off. Like, yeah, they killed 3,000 of my neighbors and I hope they all burn in hell. And the place was like crickets. We were like, is he all right? I mean, but he's passionate.
Yeah.
And he himself was in his feelings. So, he's definitely got some ideas, certainly about Islam, and I guess Arab Americans maybe. I don't want to take it that far, hoist that upon him. And if you look at his work, he's definitely written some stories that had questionable attitudes towards women and his female characters.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But he's in the Hall of Fame, though, dog. I mean,
yeah.
Because at first when I saw, so for instance, the reason for this conversation is I ran across a recent article on ScreenRant.com, Frank Miller, his 9 best comics. And I remember laughing at the title because I was like, he ain't got 9 best. That's a stretch. And I was like, and I sent it to Adrian. I was like, yo, this might be fun to talk about. Adrian was like, yeah, cool. Yeah, definitely. But I grabbed a post-it note and I just off the top said, okay, what are my favorites? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I really could have did 6.
Okay.
I really could have chosen at least 6 or 7 that I was like, wow, these are fucking killer dillers, bangers. Nothing but straight hardcore bangers coming for that ass. Don't worry about it. I got you.
All right.
and then I thought, that my list is probably going to overlap with Adrian's list, but it won't be the same because Adrian's younger than me. And he has, his tastes are going to vary in places. So we thought it would be fun for us to do our own top 5.
That's right.
Of Miller's 5 best comics, and we're going to litigate it here. We're going to challenge each other's choices and decisions. We're going to exalt the ones that we agree upon. We're going to cast out the ones that don't deserve to be on the list.
Damn right.
And, we're going to come up with what we think works as a top 5. Now, I got to start off by saying this.
Okay. All right. What's up?
Without motherfucking question, Daredevil is on the list.
Man, please. Come on now. Hell yeah. Come on.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Daredevil is my number 1. Okay. That's my number 1 Frank Miller shit right there. Just unequivocally, I'll go to the mat. That's my number 1.
Oh man.
That is him at the peak of his powers. That is him with his teeth razor sharp, his talons, extended from his claws, him just going for it, just ripping it up, issue after issue, month after month, arc after arc, even the fucked up one-off issues, the one and dones.
Yeah.
The goofy ones like Power Man and Iron Fist hanging out with Daredevil in New York.
Yeah.
Or the drugs episode with the gun and the kids.
Hey. But go ahead.
I'm just saying they're the one-offs, the kind of one and done stories that don't really have anything to do, with the arc. Even those are great.
Yeah.
And for somebody who really isn't a terrific decorative and ornate illustrator, his drawing had such appeal to it for it to be as simple as it was. It was almost Kirby-like in that I don't care if the anatomy is correct. I don't care if it looks great. It just feels wonderful. And then let us please talk about the immaculate Klaus Janson inks with the brush and the fat line that comes to the juicy line, and it comes down to the thin line, and the splotches of black, and just taking those pencils and just making them crackle with energy. It was just the best.
Oh man, bro.
The best, sir.
And the things are just so readable. Between you and myself, we've probably read that entire run like, innumerable times over. Innumerable times. And every time I read, I can close my eyes, blindfold myself, no pun intended, and just pick an issue from that run. Just pick an issue from that run and just be straight, And the crazy thing about him is that once he took over the writing duties from Roger McKenzie, it's like you saw him gradually, like you said, month after month after month, just get better and better and better. And I'm telling you, he hit his stride right around 172, 173 with the whole Kingpin thing, where the Kingpin's wife, Vanessa, is ostensibly killed, and the Kingpin just kind of goes off. It's just the way he handled that whole episode, and then from there, and once you bring Elektra in with 168, he starts brewing that gumbo, yo. Keeps throwing stuff in. Bullseye is in the mix. And so it's like he's thrown this stuff together and just, it's a runaway train. I'm telling you, from like 168 to 181, that's your run right there. I know he still had issues after that, like that drug episode, the 3-issue drug episode with No More Mr. Nice Guy and the drugs and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are good issues. With the Punisher, that's great, but that whole Elektra saga, everything you need is right there. Oh man, come on now.
I think quite possibly the pinnacle of the Daredevil run, and it's almost the pinnacle where it's not far before long before he actually leaves the book, I think. But when Bullseye kills Elektra, and he escapes from prison, and he gets drunk, and he says, "I think Matt Murdock is Daredevil," and he starts laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fight after he kills Elektra, and then the rooftop battle, and then the hanging from the telephone wires, and then the ending with Bullseye and the full body cast and the close up of his face. It was so cinematic. And
yes,
I think again, if you look at Daredevil, even though there were clear, it's past homages. Fuck a homage. He was ripping off Will Eisner, but he almost made it. It was like somebody who went to like a French New Wave master, director, right? Someone who's considered a master, stole all their tricks, but made it a little more commercial, gave it a little more hipness, brought it a little more into modern day. I would almost say Frank Miller ripping off Will Eisner in the ways that he did had the same undeniable effectiveness that Quentin Tarantino had, pulling from old Chinese kung fu movies and old blaxploitation movies and old crime thriller movies and old pulp novels, and pulling from old soul records and from other elements of black culture, and taking those things and putting it in like you said, in a gumbo, and then presenting it as his. And it had the same, like, wow, I know where this comes from, but the way he does it, it makes it feel brand new to me.
Yeah.
And the blinds on the windows, and how he would use that, the way that Eisner would use it, and casting of shadows, and using New York as as a serious, backdrop, almost like a web around all of these characters.
Yeah.
I've never had a comic book reading experience like that where I couldn't wait month to month to see what was going to happen. I've never had one like that before. I've never had one that was as immersive as it was. I've never hung on waiting for 22 or 26 pages for 30 days like I did in those weeks and those months in the 80s when Frank Miller was working on Daredevil with Klaus Janson. It was just a transformative time in my youth in terms of, wow, something exciting. Not exciting in the rock star sense of the Image guys later on, but just exciting, like, wow, it made me want to do something, it really did. So anyway, I say, yeah, that's got to be on the list. We gotta,
I'll just cross that one off mine because I was going to bring that up. So yes, we both agree on that one for sure.
Okay.
All right. So now can I roll into, my one of my picks, right after Daredevil, or ostensibly at the same time he was working on the latter issues, he started working on the Wolverine miniseries, written by Chris Claremont. But that Wolverine miniseries, same energy as those Daredevils. There's I don't know about you, Swain. There are so many panels from that miniseries that are burned into my mind. Like, I know them by memory. Certain shots, certain lines that are just here, just like that Daredevil run, and just gorgeous. And the cool thing is that he's being inked by Joe Rubenstein on that miniseries.
I was going to say, Jansen. Yeah, Rubenstein was the inker on that, right? Yeah,
exactly. And it linked it, a different type of veracity, if you will. Especially certain close-ups, that Miller did. Like, there's a certain close-up in issue 3 where Miller is in like this Zen garden, and he's messed up the pebbles after this fight or whatnot, and he kind of looks up to the night sky through the hole in the roof, and it's just like, no, Shinjin, I'm not an animal. I am a man. And he has just this wistful, hopeful look on his face, the glint in his eyes. Oh, man. Miller and Rubenstein did that shit. Oh.
Yes, yo. Yes. And Claremont's story was terrific, man. It was terrific. Again, it was just like, it was like a Wolverine road trip, and again, with ninjas and assassins and swords and, the whole, just all of it, man. It was fantastic. And I was going to mention, Joe Rubenstein inking him gave him less of a, Joe Rubenstein kind of warmed him up a little bit, rounded out some of the edges. You know what I mean? And in a very good way. I'm a fan of Joe Rubenstein's inks. On quite a few different pencilers, but yeah, that's on my list too, man. The Wolverine miniseries, that's on my list, dog. So we got 2. that's 2, dog.
There you go, yo. What you got next, yo?
All right, so now I'm gonna get a little controversial.
Okay, all right.
I really do like that What If Daredevil, yo.
That ain't controversial. Hell yeah. Go proceed.
But I'm just saying, like, I mean, again, it's a one-off. It's a what if. It doesn't matter to canon.
Now hold on now. Which what if though? I should have remembered. Which what if? Go ahead.
Yeah. I like them both. I'm not gonna lie, I do like them both.
Yeah.
But I prefer the what if Daredevil had joined Shield.
Oh, okay. Whoo. Okay. The right choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoo.
Okay.
Lord have mercy. Whoo.
Oh, we still friends.
But yes, absolutely.
I really like that, but I don't think that's maybe his best. I just really like it. But as far as his best goes, you know, hey man, that first Sin City was the truth, yo.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That first Sin City was the truth, and it was so the truth that even that shitty movie can't make me not like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can't make me not like it. I think Sin City, the first, A Dame to Kill For, right?
The first one was The Hard Goodbye, and then the next one was A Dame to Kill For. But both of those really together.
The Hard Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really dig the first Sin City. I think because that was him totally moving away from Marvel, DC, anything connected with quote mainstream comics, and totally embracing the kind of pulpy detective genre thing that he clearly loved. You know, Mickey Spillane and Westlake and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He clearly loved all that stuff, but, you know, and brought elements of that to Daredevil for sure.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was mostly that. That's really what it was. It was Daredevil as, you know, as detective, as Gumshoe, as, you know, as a flatfoot detective, you know, walking a beat in New York City trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But I do think Sin City, and then also too, I think a lot of the criticisms that people would have, including myself, of his drawing, and criticisms in the sense of nobody is buying Frank Miller's work just because of the drawing, but I think his style really started to crystallize. So the things that he was taking from, let's say, a Jack Kirby and a Gil Kane, the things that he was taking from, is it Kojima, the artist from Lone Wolf and Cub?
Yes, but I would also argue that he took some stuff from Jose Munoz and Alberto Breccia as well. Alberto Breccia,
right.
Yeah.
All of that. He took all of those things and crystallized them. And so what we got, I mean, the Sin City artwork is probably the most luscious work he's done up to that point, in my opinion. Where you did, you know, and then he was really working with the contrast of the shadows and the black and the white, you know, as a tool, not just like, oh, there's black and there's white. He's using it as a tool. He literally would change and compose panels to make the most of that contrast, and that's why, you know, one of the reasons why I hated the movie, because it was so slavish to the original work. But I think that first Sin City is one of his best comics and represents a real milestone in his sojourn as, you know, as a cartoonist.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he is a cartoonist. He's not a comic. He's a comic book artist and he's a comic book writer, but he's really a cartoonist.
Now, see, and I'm glad you made that distinction, because I was going to mention something along those lines as well. You know, with Sin City being where he staked his claim in the ground. Like, he had been working towards it, but it had always been with another collaborator, like Jansen on inks, or, you know, something like that. You know, someone else doing the lettering. Mm-hmm. But Sin City is the first time where he had all three hats, i.e., he was a cartoonist. You know what I mean? And just, yeah, there's something about that when someone is at the top of their powers, you know, and you can see it in the work. I mean, just from top to bottom, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, within Sin City, you know, my favorite, you know, as much as I love that first arc, The Hard Goodbye, my favorite of his Sin City work is actually this standalone graphic novel called Family Values, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's like, it's him, you know, he's like, man, I came in, I got all my flowers and my propers for this chiaroscuro work, and I'm still doing that here in Family Values, but I'm getting loose because now I'm looking at, Bill Watterson, from Calvin and Hobbes, and I love how he's getting loose and putting energy into it. So I wonder if I could put that same energy into what I'm doing here on Sin City. And he really did. He went from using like a big fat brush to, let me break out this nib and try to get like more energy in these thin lines along with this chiaroscuro. And it's just, man, that stuff moves. Oh man, it's fantastic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then one other thing I want to say within Sin City, one of my other favorite single issues, like later on as Sin City progresses, it does start to kind of repeat, and it's like, the stories aren't as strong.
Right.
Right. But in that last story that he did, To Hell and Back, there's an issue within that. It's issue number 7, where the main character is injected with a hallucinogen. And so he starts tripping out of his mind. And Lynn Varley, before they had them troubles, she comes in and just paints. She just comes in and paints like a whole 12 or 14 page section of the book, man, all color. So it's his artwork, her colors. Ooh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like she put her foot off in it. It was like,
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a follow up to that, and I'm not exactly sure if I consider it his best, but Electra Lives Again.
That's on my list too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. With Varley providing colors and on that as well. Yeah, dog. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
That's fire, yo. And it was a nice hard bound.
Yeah, oversized. Yeah.
Yeah, oversized, and so it kind of felt like one of those giant size joints that they used to do back in the day.
One of the Treasury editions.
I still love.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, sir! I used to love those. I was like, okay, it's comics, but just bigger. Okay. It's like when TV started getting bigger, and it's like, okay, I thought I didn't like TV. I just like it bigger. But
oh man,
I'm gonna go ahead and say this, and even though Batman Year One, okay, wait a minute. So Sin City, is Sin City? Are we split on Sin City, The Long Goodbye, and A Dame to Kill For, or?
Yes, for you it's the first start. For me, it'd be Family Values.
Okay, Family Values. Excuse me, Family Values. Okay, now where do we stand on Electra Lives Again? Is that one of his best, you think?
In terms of story, definitely not. But in terms of like the leap in artwork and the chances that he was taking in terms of progressing towards where he needed to go, absolutely. You can definitely see, because he worked on that for like a couple of years after Dark Knight Returns and right before he does Sin City, because there's a period in there where he is wooed by Hollywood to write the sequel to RoboCop. So he starts getting into more writing things, but he still was saying, I still want to draw though, even though I'm working on this stuff. So you can see during that period, his style is starting to change for sure. But yeah, Electra Lives Again, yeah, that's on the list.
All right, so that's on the list. So we got 1, 2, 3 that we're in full agreement on. Okay, this is what I was going to say.
All right.
As much as I worship Batman Year One, I do think Daredevil Born Again is better.
Man, that's tough. You're talking about the Eminem connection right there. Oh.
Yeah, because see, this is why I say that, because I think Batman Year One is this is the guy who comes behind the Dark Knight Returns and does what I consider to be an even better Batman story.
Yeah.
He retells the Batman origin and makes me fuck with it again.
Yeah.
And I had read that story 1,000 times. I could have written a story I could have written Batman's origin story. I've seen it so many times I could recite it.
Yeah.
But I think Born Again is his collaboration with Mazzucchelli. It's Mazzucchelli in all of his powers, just wielding the sword, just wreaking mayhem on weak motherfuckers, just doing it, yo.
Yes.
Putting cases on all you bitches.
Yeah.
And it's Frank Miller returning to Daredevil. And I remember when it was announced and we were all like, you going back to Daredevil?
Yeah.
And we saw the first scene, it was fire. Ooh, that shit fire. So I just think the fact that he was able to go, not draw it, work with another artist, and it still had just punch to it. It still had power. It still had, it just had all of those same elements, but different. It wasn't just, this could have been a continuation from where he ended his run on Daredevil and Klaus took over, and then other people came along after them. Mm-hmm. It was different. It felt different, and it advanced the character in a way with the Catholicism and with the mother and with all of that. It advanced the character in a way that he hadn't done previously in the other iteration, where there was more of a sense of, it was really Matt Murdock Born Again to me more so than Daredevil Born Again.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point that you made. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Daredevil in the when he was doing his classic run, there were lots of characters connected to the Daredevil universe that he kind of reinvented, like Gladiator and Bullseye. Mm-hmm. He brought in other new characters. And we did spend a lot of time with Matt Murdock, but Born Again was all about Matt Murdock. You know what I mean?
Oh, so
I think Born Again is one of his best comics, or is one of his best runs. And I think that to me truly needs to be in the top 5 of his, of his greatest achievements.
Oh, yeah.
What say you, sir? What say you?
What say me? I say I agree. I mean, just, man. Born Again is just, it's, without hyperbole, it's magnificent. I mean, it really is. And it's the same thing. It's so funny how many of Miller's comics, how many of his works are ingrained in your brain. If you're of a certain age, or if you love like Miller's stuff, there are certain things, even though he didn't draw Born Again, there are certain passages, there's certain pieces of artwork, there's certain panels from Mazzucchelli that are just in here, in your brain. Yeah. It's gorgeous. Yeah. It's gorgeous. And, just the thing about Born Again, too, it's like it almost plays as if it's the omega of Matt Murdock's story. Even down to the last panel of the story, where it's him and Karen Page in this coda, if you will. They're just walking in normal street clothes, after they've gone through all of this hell. She's come back to him. He's come back from hell. And just now they're hand in hand, just like, man, let's get just a fresh start here in Hell's Kitchen. And it's almost like if that was the last Daredevil story, that could have been it. That could have been Miller saying, I've basically closed the book on this character. Now, y'all do what y'all want to, but I'm through. I'm through.
I'm through.
I'm through.
THOO. I'm through.
Exactly. I'm done with it. And then, to further cement that, years later, he writes Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, with Romita Jr. illustrating.
With Romita Jr. And even that, again, working with a different artist in a different time, and that turns out dope.
Exactly. So it's almost like that's the alpha, because he redoes, Matt Murdock's origin, Daredevil's origin in that. So it's almost like Miller has handled the whole gamut of this character. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, man, it is no wonder that every creative team that's come after that goes back to it in some way, shape, or form. And they've tried different formulas. They've tried to put new characters in. But whatever, they keep coming back to that groundwork that Miller put in place. And it's almost like you can't escape it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Bendis and Malev and Azarella, not Brian Azarella, excuse me,
Brubaker, yeah.
and Lark's run on Daredevils. I mean, they were great. I like Brubaker and Lark's run better than I do Bendis's, but Bendis's run with Malev is great too.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all just love letters to Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. They're all just love letters, to just how inspiring that particular classic run was to them. In the same way as when Joss Whedon and Cassaday were doing Astonishing X-Men.
Yeah.
And it was just a love letter back to Claremont and Byrne. That's all it was.
Yep.
That's all it was, So I agree with you, man. And I think you're right, man. I think that, I don't know, man. It's just hard to ignore those those runs on Daredevil in terms of Miller's leaving his stamp on the character.
Yeah.
Because Daredevil was a D-level character.
Yeah, so I heard.
I mean, it was a D-level. I mean, I was definitely rolling with it, when Gene Colan was on it.
Yeah.
I loved all that stuff. The Stilt Man and I loved all that shit.
Uh-huh.
But it never meant anything. You know what I mean? And it was like he made it mean something. In the same way as like when Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man in 2008 in the Iron Man movies.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, people knew who Captain America was. They knew who the Hulk was. They knew who Superman and Batman were. But an Iron Man movie was a chance taker because the mainstream public, they didn't know who Iron Man was.
Yeah.
And by the time you go from 2008 to whatever Avengers in Endgame comes out, whatever that was, 2018 or whatever, 19, whatever, Iron Man is the most popular Avenger. Tony Stark is one of the most popular characters.
Yeah.
He is the beloved character. He sacrifices himself in the beginning of the first Avengers movie, and he ultimately sacrifices himself in Endgame. And so in that same way that Downey and Favreau and Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige made Iron Man something great when he was, he's kind of a B-level character, to some great extent. The same thing with Daredevil. It's like Daredevil means something now.
Yes.
That's why, when Ben Affleck did that movie with Jennifer Garner, I was like, Jesus Christ, just stop. Just read the comics, Ben.
Yes.
Just read the comics, dog. But yeah, man, I think you're right there. So we got Daredevil's the classic run.
Yes.
We have the Wolverine miniseries with Chris Claremont.
That's right.
We have Elektra Lives Again. Are we definitely putting Elektra Lives Again on there?
Yeah.
That's number 3.
Yeah. And
okay, Elektra Lives Again. And then 4 is Born Again.
Okay. Yeah.
So we don't have a 5th yet. We're split on Sin City, so we'll leave that off the list. But I'm going to throw a controversial one out there, yo.
All right.
300.
That's on my list as well. Because that's one of the things, from the top of the show where I was talking about my retraction. I think I was in my feelings more about the movie, not about the comic. The comic itself it's great. It's great. And that's Frank just basically said, bruh, that's Frank just saying, man, hey, I got this crime shit locked down. I got this superhero shit locked down. I bet y'all ain't ready for historical fiction. I bet y'all ain't ready for this.
I bet y'all ain't ready for that. Y'all ain't see that comes in.
Yeah. Bruh, I remember picking that up at Comic Company when it came out. And I was 17. Picked up that Wednesday. I was like, And when I've got done reading it, you open it up and there's all these spreads.
Yeah.
Frank
the book was it was landscape. It wasn't a portrait like a comic. It was landscape, right?
Initially initially the actual issues they open up and it's all spreads. But when they put it into hardback, that's when they made it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, completely landscape. And when they did that, that was the smartest decision they ever made. Because I think the hardback of it, that's the definitive way to read 300.
Yes.
It gives you that scope. It gives you just the vistas. And it makes all those panels so powerful. When Leonidas kicks the Persians down that well, this is Sparta. Ooh.
Yeah.
And then Lynn Varley with them colors. Ooh.
Yes. Ooh, dog. With that shot where they're pushing the soldiers off the cliff and it's in silhouette.
Yes.
And it's just all of it, man. It's just glorious. And the idea again, I don't think Frank Miller's somebody who can do anything. Like, I feel like Alan Moore as a writer can write anything. And kind of make you be like, oh damn, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't think I could feel this way about Rom Space Knight, but Alan Moore is making me love Rom Space Knight, yo.
Rom.
Did you read that Alan Moore Micronauts? That shit was he was on some other shit with you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Be like, yo, did you check out that 8-page story at the end of Superman, that Mr. Mixel-Pitalik story that Alan Moore wrote? You'd be like, damn, that shit was great.
Yeah.
So I don't think he can do anything in the way that Moore can, but I do think that when he gets ideas that he's passionate about, it's generally going to work more than it's not going to work, at least up until that point.
Yeah.
And even something like Ronin, which I liked looking at it because, the artwork was so different. And it was a different kind of story from Daredevil. And it was basically like when Prince did Around the World in the Day after Purple Rain. And he went from, synth funk rock and then did this album with, with flutes and finger cymbals and string quartets and banjos and shit. And you're like, wow, okay. It was basically like a cleanser. Like, you're not going to make me be this thing forever. And I'm going to show you I'm not going to be this thing forever. So him doing the artwork with all that cross hatching, was like, okay, wow, this is really different. I didn't love the story because I don't like supernatural, I just don't like that kind of thing. The supernatural, somebody's spirit goes into somebody else's body. Yeah, whatever. Come on. But I do love the fact that the book exists and what he was, maybe attempting to do in terms of shattering his past with this new, current me kind of a thing.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about Ronin too is, and once I make this point, I'm going to jump back on 300 because I got a point to make there too.
Okay.
With Ronin, that's a power move. Not only is it him, like, you can feel like the handcuffs coming off of him in terms of like the type of artwork that he's trying to do, in terms of the color and production, allowing Lynn Varley to really take these colors to a whole other place that you had seen in a while with comic book coloring. Just everything was like on point. And the fact that he was getting away with it as a young 20-something, when it's guys that have been in the industry in their 40s and 50s that still couldn't get a deal like that. You know what I'm saying? And here's DC giving this young Turk a shot. Like, come on. We got you. Come on. And I know them dude. I know the veterans were salty. Just like, what the fuck? Come on, fuck.
Yeah. It was a total flex, yo. It was a total flex. It was like, okay, y'all gonna let me? Okay. This skinny kid from Vermont. Check this out. What you think about this right here? But go ahead. What were we going to say about 300, man?
Yeah, man. So with 300, you're talking about he was taking a chance, on that, and he certainly was. Because he could have kept doing Sin City, series on and on and on, but whatever it was, he felt the need to do this. He even went over to Greece, to the actual site of Thermopylae, to the battle site, so that he could see how was everything laid out. You know, the fields of grass, the cliffs, just everything. So it's like that added veracity that he needed to really bring that to the book. And you can feel it. Like, that's the thing about Miller, too, that I don't think even myself at certain points, I have to call back to and give him his propers on. There is a certain power that he lends to his drawings. You know, you can say about them what you will, that, yeah, some of them are wonky, but I like the fact that they're wonky. I like the fact that, you know, sometimes when the characters are leaping, like they legs kind of are splayed any which way, like a Frank Robbins drawing. You know what I'm saying? I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, he has enough chops to pull that off, but there is a raw power when Miller is at his best, like, and you can really sense it when he's not resting on his laurels. Bruh, that power is just undeniable, and that's what you get in 300. Like, full bore, just it was fantastic, man. So definitely that deserves to be on the list for sure.
Okay. So, so 1, 2, 3, 4. That's like 5, yo.
That's 5, and
That's like 5.
And I know people are asking. I know what you guys are asking. You guys omitted one big one,
Right.
and for me, that was on purpose.
Yeah, same here.
That was on purpose. Go ahead with why you omitted what I think I omitted as well.
I admitted The Dark Knight Returns.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I intentionally skipped over The Dark Knight Returns because, one, I think of all of the things that we're discussing, and even some of the things that didn't make our top 5. So we got classic Daredevil run, we got Wolverine miniseries, we've got Elektra Assassin, we've got 300, we've got Born Again.
Elektra Lives Again.
Elektra Lives Again. Even though, I think that The Dark Knight Returns is less satisfying for me to return to than some of these other things are.
Yep. Yeah, agreed.
There's a darkness and a cynicism to The Dark Knight Returns that I find less appealing because, and it's not because of the material, it's because of everything that came after the material. So I can't go back and enjoy it at this, when that happened, when The Dark Knight Returns happened and when Watchmen happened, this was at a time when superheroes hadn't been presented in that way before. So it was fresh, it was interesting, and it was new. Now, when I go back to it, I've seen 1,000 different bad versions of that. I've seen 1,000 TV shows based on superheroes that are doing, their take on that. And that has been done to death for the almost 40 years or whatever since those works came out. So this Dark Knight Returns is just less satisfying for me to return to. I even bought the animated movie.
Yeah.
Watched about 20 minutes of it, and then I didn't finish it.
Oh, man.
But I can go back to that Wolverine miniseries and be a teenager again. I can go back to 300 because I didn't buy the comics. I bought the hard copy, hardbound collection, collected version, and was just like, wow, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. Born Again, where I become a Mazzucchelli fan yet again. I follow him to his indie bullshit and Rubber Blanket and, all the other stuff. I buy the New Yorker covers that he was painting just because I'm like, okay, I'm a fan. I got to go where you go. I can't not go anymore.
Yeah.
Born Again did that. Batman Year One did that. And then the classic Devil one. But was it Dark Knight Returns or was it Batman Year One that you were omitting on purpose?
I was
got to be
omitting
one of those two.
Yeah, it was Dark Knight Returns. For the same reason, Now, don't get me wrong. Dark Knight Returns is great to look at. Same thing. There are so many panels and lines that are etched into my memory and to my brain. I know them by heart. And a lot of that, like especially like the first couple of books, they're wonderful to look at. I can't front, you know what I'm saying? But it's too much of that. And in subsequent years, decades even after that, with like these sequels, like, I said at the top of the show, just, Dark Knight 3, Dark Knight 4. There was even a separate Dark Knight one shot that I'm like, why is this even included? What the hell? And it's just like this whole Dark Knight universe that's just wholly unneeded when the original is just powerful on its own. It's so monolithic, but yet to the same reason that you're mentioning, man, there's so many books out there that took that and have that same feel. And even like Miller, with these sequels and everything, he's kind of watered it down, in my opinion. And it's just like, nah. Now, is it a great series? Sure, the first one is. But it's just not as powerful to me as these other ones that we've put on the list.
Yeah, I agree. So Dark Knight Returns doesn't make our top 5.
That's right.
Batman Year One.
If you want to interchange it, that's what I'm saying. It could go either way.
I would be willing to trade out Batman Year One and Born Again if I had to. Like if I had to have a Frank Miller Batman something in the top 5, I could trade out Year One.
Right.
It wouldn't be TDKR. It would be Batman Year One for Born Again, because I still keep Mazzucchelli.
Right.
I still keep that collaboration, but I get my Batman John on. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, what about Electro Assassin with Bill Sienkiewicz?
No.
I didn't give a shit about the story. I just loved Sienkiewicz's artwork.
Exactly. And it's almost like, Miller had to rewrite it in response to seeing these pages come in like, what the hell? Okay, I guess I'll get back to the typewriter. Well,
I thought he said that with Hard Boiled.
He did, but he also said that with Electro Assassin, because he was sending the script to Sienkiewicz, and Sienkiewicz would send the pages back to him. You're like, oh, well, damn, I got to rewrite this now. God damn.
Okay. Yeah, I love Bill's artwork, but I just didn't care at all about the story. What about Martha Washington?
Oh!
Give Me Liberty.
Oh! That's right. Oh!
Yeah, yo.
Damn! I'm going to have to give that an honorable mention. Like, I'm going to have to, I hate to put it like this, just tack it on, because Give Me Liberty, that is one of the most underrated books in his body of work, period. You know what I'm saying? Like that first arc, Give Me Liberty, it's great. It has all this cynicism, but it's also optimistic. It's about overcoming, so many obstacles. And I have the whole saga, like over here on my bookshelf, I got the complete saga, The Life and Times of Martha Washington. It's 600 pages. And so you're talking like, think 3 miniseries by him with like 2 or 3 one-shots, and I think him and Dave Gibbons added extra pages to this collection,
Okay.
I'm shocked that nobody's done an adaptation of Martha Washington. I'm surprised that people don't bring it up more. Even here, it took you to remind me about it for me to say, that's right. And I hate that. You know what I'm saying? I should have been brought it up. But yeah, it definitely deserves a mention for sure. Absolutely.
That's what I was going to say too, man. I mean, I like Jeff Darrow's artwork on Hard Boiled. I do like Sienkiewicz's artwork on Electro Assassin.
Yeah.
I just don't care about those stories at all. I don't care about them. And I just didn't at the time when I read them. But I do agree with you that Give Me Liberty. I'm off. To me, it's like of all things to be optioned and to be made, not easily made, but certainly easier than, Fantastic Four movies, people stretching and catching fire and shit. This solo female black hero with the buzz cut and it's set in like this nihilistic future,
Yeah.
and it's just all technology, and you just have to have a charismatic lead and put some other charismatic character actors around her. It's right there. Even that. Remember that I forget who did it. It was there was an image circulating online where some graphic artist took a picture of Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah.
Yeah, and made her into Martha, and everybody was like, "Oh, snap!" Like,
Yeah.
now she can't do it because she's too old now
Yeah.
to play the part. Because Martha's supposed to be a teenager, right?
Yeah, teenager, and it goes to like her early 20s. Yeah.
Early 20s. So you would probably want to cast somebody who is at least, maybe somebody. Because to me, I would say cast somebody who's kind of known to play the part if you're going to adapt it. So maybe somebody in their early 20s who can play down to like 16 or 17, and then just do two of them together, and then take it into, or do it as a series even. Do it as a series and a television series on a streaming platform. But it's right there. It's right there. And right now, Hollywood is definitely hot for things by black female creatives, or starring, black women as the centers of the story. So it's right there as far as comics is concerned.
And the crazy part about that, if you really think about it, the fact that Miller has a character like that and books that he's written about the character like that is in kind of a juxtaposition with his latter day views politically. And I know we were trying to keep them separate, but it's just interesting how that has played out, and it's also curious that he didn't come back to that character. Like, I think him and Gibbons added those extra pages, like I mentioned, for this particular collection, but I just think it's a shame that he probably won't return to that character. You know what I'm saying? And won't have new adventures or anything else to say. And really, there's really no need for him to, because, in the collection himself, the character ends. It ends. She ends.
Right.
Like she passes away. So it's almost like he closed the book on that character. But, oh, man, the stories that are there for someone, if they wanted to take them to live action, or if you as readers get a chance, check out The Life and Times of Martha Washington, or any of those Give Me Liberty, any of those miniseries by that. It's definitely satisfying. It's one of those reads. Yeah. It's one of those reads that is very literate, and they were coming out with those in like the early 90s. Like stuff like Twilight by Chaikin, things like that, to where it was a standalone, it was a deep read, but very satisfying. You know what I'm saying? And Give Me Liberty is definitely that.
It's because that was published by DC, right?
It was actually published by Dark Horse. Twilight was published by DC.
Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Twilight was published by DC. Yeah, I think at the time this was when a lot of Dark Horse, DC with Vertigo. This is when a lot of comics were being aimed not at the probably 30-somethings to 40-year-olds at the time, but to college-age people who were in the younger 20s, more progressive ideas, more out there kinds of ideas, and less kind of about, 14-year-old boys' power fantasies about punching the bully and saving the day kind of thing.
Right.
But to recap, man, so we've got the classic run of Daredevil, and these aren't in any particular order, right?
Right. They just up there. Yeah.
The classic run of Daredevil. We've got Wolverine miniseries. We've got Elektra Lives Again.
Yes.
We've got Born Again.
Yes.
And then we've got 300.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm gonna throw an honorable mention out there too for I think it's Spider-Man Annual number 14.
15. Annual 15, dog.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yo.
I'm pumping my fist.
Yes.
I know the listeners can't see it, but yes.
I'm right there. I'm right there with it.
Yes.
Didn't he do the What If Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four too?
No.
No. He did something with the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man.
That
I forgot what it was. A one shot, I think.
You are thinking of Marvel Team Up 100 because they introduced the character Karma from New Mutants. That's also a great one. Yes, that's also a great one. Oh, man.
Yes.
Oh, hey.
That's a great issue.
And what about you? I know the one you're thinking of. Actually, he did 2 Spider-Man annuals in a row. He did annual
It's 14 and 15, I think.
Yes, 14 had Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And then 15 had him fighting Doc Ock with the Punisher. Now those are joints. Hell yeah.
Yes. Yes,
yo. Yeah.
Yes, yo.
Oh, man. Oh, that was
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, just awesome. Awesome, man. Another one. This is just me because I go here, yo.
All right.
The Batman's Christmas story.
Santa Claus. Wanted dead or alive. Yeah.
Yes, yo. Yes. I'm with it, yo. I'm with it. I'm just with it. You know, because that was at the point where I was, like you said, I was looking in the price guide.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, Frank Miller did this. And like you said on the previous episode, yo, well, I got to have them all.
Got it. Yeah, I got to get it.
So I got to get it. So, and then I hunted it down and I got it. And I loved it.
Oh, but, man.
Oddly enough, look, no love for Batman and Spawn.
No. Even me. Me you're talking to.
No love for All-Star Batman and Robin, yo.
Hell no. Hell no. No.
Oh, my goodness, yo. Hey, man. Hey, man, I'm the goddamn Batman, yo.
That concludes this episode of Sidebar Forever, hosted by Dwight Clark, Swain Hunt, and Adrian Johnson. You can find us online at sidebarforever.com. Any emails or questions can be directed to us at sidebarforever@gmail.com. And also, subscribe to us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.